Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I posted another video about my experience with Soltara Healing Retreat in Costa Rica. So my actual review of the resort and the facilitators and all that is on a different video. Check that out on my channel. This video is actually going to be completely personal to my experience. So let's get into it. When I arrived at Soltara, I was just blown away. Like I said in my other video, it is just, I'm very hard to please, and Soltara felt like a 5-star resort to me. So if you are picky about like the atmosphere and the environment that you're in during vacation, I highly recommend going to Soltara. This place was great. If you want to know any other details about my thoughts on the resort, check out my other video. So the rest of this video is just going to be exclusively talking about my experience with the plant medicine. I had an intention from the very beginning. The reason why I wanted to go do plant medicine was because for me, I have a hard connection with love. I have a hard connection with knowing what love is supposed to be. Like, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. I feel like it's painful. I feel like it's hard to connect to people. It's hard to trust people. And so, like, it's just hard for me. And then whenever I thought about connecting to someone, it would bring up this, just pain feeling in my chest. And I didn't know how. I thought that I was going to go take plant medicine to actually heal this pain or purge this pain. The one thing, if you haven't watched anything about ayahuasca, like done any research on it, there are 2 things to know. First of all, the medicine is going to give you what you need, not necessarily what you want. And also, it works best if you surrender to it. And as I explain this, my experience, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. My intention was, the very first night was, I wanted to know what was causing this pain around love. I wanted the medicine to show me what was going on. Since I did have an intention, the facilitator gave me a little bit of a larger glass, and I took that shot. And then, basically, thanked them. I asked her for it. I took my tobacco and went back to my mat. I always lit up my tobacco right away. It was just kind of like a comfort feeling for me. The tobacco that they give you is not something that you're going to inhale, though. It's 10 times stronger than the cigarettes that we're, would be used to purchasing at the store. Then I just laid there on my mat and just let whatever was going to happen. I felt like my first night was the best night. I know other people's experiences, it kind of goes the other way around. Like, they have a rough first night and second night, but that is not how it went for me. So my first night was the best night. I was feeling indigestion when I took the medicine, so I did have a bit of burping as far as purging goes, and I did feel like I wanted to throw up, but I never did that night. So when I laid down, I got these beautiful visions right away. All I can explain that it looked like black titanium, etched, and then there were these lights, these beautiful lights, laced in somehow to the etching of the black titanium. And these, if I opened my eyes, I could see them loca and everything was normal. But if I closed my eyes, just beautiful vision, just passing like a movie that just kept going and just kept going and just kept going. I can still see it to this day. It was just so incredibly beautiful. I thought to myself, okay, Mother Ayahuasca, I am really enjoying this light show. Don't get me wrong, this is gorgeous, but what about my intention? I just kept, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you hear voices. People were very confused as I explained this. It's not like you hear a voice from the medicine. It's kind of like if you've ever talked to your own soul, your own spirit, if you've ever asked questions, you just the message just comes to you. That's the only way that I can explain it. So she kept saying to me, look at the lights, look at the lights, look at the lights. I think I did ask maybe a second time, what about my intention? Again, look at the lights. And then there was one point where I think I just started to think something negatively. I can't remember. And she took the light show away from me. So I was like, no, I want the light show. And then she brought it back. My lesson that I learned that night, what she showed me, was that with this love, with this pain that I thought that I was feeling inside, she said I was focusing on that I actually needed to take my focus off of that and focus on the positive in my life. So everything, like, you know, my passions, my cat, my friends that I'm on the same frequency with, like, that's where I needed to put all my focus, not to put the focus on that little bit of pain that was there. The way to get out of it is to, you know, just move past it. The other thing that she taught me was that she basically said, you know, this love that you have started to feel for yourself, and while you're building this love for yourself, we all have this light inside of us. We often look to the external, like other people, or I don't know, coping mechanism, or, you know, work or whatever, material possessions. We often look to these other things to give us this light, but it's an illusion. That light is actually there within us. So she explained to me that this light that I had within me, it was now my responsibility to go out and share that light with everybody else, and to talk to them about it and tell them that they have that same light inside them. So then the rest of the time on my mattress, I was actually having visions of different colors of like swirls, and I was sending them to different people in my life. At some point, I was sending green and gold, and I didn't know particularly who that was for, what that was for, and then I figured out that that was from my father, because way back when, well, green was his favorite color, and he also had a gold and green ring that he wore all the time, so those colors were to send love to him. He's passed away, but still he was like my closest relationship from childhood, and he was my best friend. So I continued. There were a lot of people like purging in the Maloka. There was one gal there who really touched my heart on what she shared the very first day when she was talking about her experience. You know, she was just saying stuff about, I mean, that she literally hated herself, and I think was having a hard time with self-love and so forth. And it like almost put me into tears to hear her talking about it. So I was sending just tons of love for her while she was going through her experience, and then sent love throughout the room. I also did ask about my twin flame. She only said 2 things to me about him. And if you guys don't know what a twin flame is, that is your mirrored soul. So there is another individual in this lifetime that is sharing a soul with me. We are in separation, but I was asking about that, and she told me 2 very simple things. She said, number 1, that have I not noticed that the universe always gives me everything that I want? So that was an indication to me that union will happen. She also said not to talk to anybody about him. So I have like one friend now that I will talk to about him, and I don't really share details with anyone else other than the content that I put out for Twin Flames. And then she also said not to forget about him, which if you know anything about the twin flame journey, you cannot forget about your twin. When I went back to the room, again, I did feel like I wanted to vomit still, but I just never did. The hike back up to the room was quite the experience. I made friends with 2 really great girls there who were in the rooms like right across the way from me. So we did walk up there together and talked a little bit about our experience on the way, and then I just had to go lay down. Now, ayahuasca for me was a stimulant. The best way to explain it was it felt like I had drank 10 cups of coffee. And sometimes it's hard for me to get to sleep. Like I have to listen to a podcast, drink chamomile tea, which I was actually introduced to. One of the facilitators, she was big on plants, just like it's her passion. And she was saying, if you've tried chamomile tea to sleep and it didn't work the first time, you need to keep doing it because you need to form a relationship with the plant. So I actually learned a ton from her, but even drinking the chamomile and listening to the podcast, I still just could not go to sleep after even one shot of ayahuasca. It was just a total stimulant for me. It is not that way for everyone. I think I might have been the only person that happened to, but I may have been the only insomniac there. I'm not sure. When I went in to talk to the maestra and the maestro and the facilitators about my experience, did mention to them that Mother Ayahuasca said not just important for me to share that love with others, but to also be able to receive it from others. So actually everybody in the group got up and gave me a hug, which I'm going to start crying. Just felt like the absolute world to me. And that is, the people are just so amazing. I think everybody could tell that I was just so happy. I just wanted to talk about my experience and everything. For the second night, I went in and I took my first dose and nothing was happening. I think I was getting some visuals, but after my first night being so wonderful, I just wasn't really happy with what she was giving me. Plant medicine will kind of tell you if you need to go back for another dose. If you're going back for a second dose of Soltara, you have to walk around the other side of the center mattresses to get to the facilitator, and that's where they have the ayahuasca set up. So they will ask you when you go back for another dose, at least they did with me, they'll kind of ask you what's going on, how much particularly what's going on, why you want another dose. Everybody can have a second dose if they want it, a third, whatever. It's just they want to, check in on you and see what's going on. So I explained to her that nothing was happening, and she gave me an even larger shot, I believe, than the first one that I had. I went back to my mattress and that's when stuff started to get really rough. So my intention for the second night, I personally had already done a lot of intensive trauma healing work before I went to do ayahuasca. So I have done brain spotting. I had also done EMDR, and I had also gone to an intensive that covers all of your childhood trauma. This was kind of, ayahuasca was the next step for that. And I'm what? I felt like I got everything I wanted from the first night. So what else do I want while I'm here? And so my intention was to show me any other trauma that I still had. So the second night she did show me. So I still just did not, I just wanted to purge. I just wanted to throw up so bad, but I couldn't. It was just I guess, when you drink a lot of alcohol and you're laying in bed and you just don't want to get up and do it, even though you're going to feel better. This is even worse than that. I grabbed my purge bucket and I was, sitting there with it in front of me. And then it was time for the maestra to sing me my Icaro. So if you didn't watch my other video, an Icaro is a song that the maestra, the maestro sings one to you too, but each one makes a song that's tailored to you and your experience. She was the next mattress over, and I'm well, I just don't want to vomit in front of her, so I'm just going to wait until she sings my Icaro. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse as she sang to me, and I was still holding on. And then she moved to the person that was on the mattress next to me and was singing the Icaro to him. And then I actually shone my red light, and one of the most beautiful facilitators, she just, such a strong heart. I've never sensed such a strong heart in an individual. She came over and sat with me, and she was what's going on? And I said, I need to purge, but I can't. So she was like, the tobacco is good if you want to smoke that to bring on a purge. And I was like, I actually if you could just put your hand on my back for just a second, I just needed I don't know, that comfort level to be able to do this. So she did, and she kept her hand on my back, and it all just came up, and it was, again, this is not like vomiting alcohol. This is you can really just feel the trauma, just ejecting from your body. It's just it takes everything out of you. And it just feels like it just wants to keep going, and it wants to keep going, and it wants to keep going. And it was bringing up everything that I hadn't covered during my previous trauma release experiences. So even after I told her, I was okay, you can take your hand off my back, she still, sat there maybe a foot away from me and just stayed with me. And she would always wear a white dress to these ceremonies, and we all were she just looks like an angel. And it just felt like I had an angel there helping me through this experience. I don't know. I'm really weird about having an experience with other people around me. So I probably could have purged more, but I instead laid, I put the bucket at the end of my mat and I laid back down. But then I was still feeling two things. I was feeling like I wanted to purge more. And then also it was really, really, really just bothering me that my purge bucket was still so close to me, right at the end of the mat. All of that nasty stuff that I brought up was still just sitting so close to me. So I actually asked if she could help me to the bathroom so that I could flush it. I think I get that from a lot of my spiritual teachings where if you write a letter and you're trying to get closure on something, you go burn it. Or I don't know, if there's something that I had some clothing once that I felt had some, trauma in it, and I burned that, and it just it just helps you just close that door out. So she helped me to the bathroom, and I did flush that, and then I sat there for a little bit longer, and they'll wait outside for you. They're just very protective of whoever's going through a rough time in the Maloka. So she did kind of stay out there and wait for me. But I stayed in there a little bit longer just to have privacy to purge. And, then by then there wasn't any more medicine coming up. It was really just I don't know, air. Not even bile, just just air just coming up. So, but it doesn't really matter. What I learned with the medicine is it's just just as long as it feels like it's leaving your body is all that it matters. And then I didn't want to take my bucket back to my mattress. So she's like, well, you have to take your bucket back to your mattress. And I'm like, well, then I need to wash it out. You can't wash out a bucket with these tiny little sinks. So she's like, well, can you just swap it with the one that was in there? So I went back and laid on my mattress, and that was just, I don't know. I just felt shivery and miserable. I felt like there was one more thing that I needed to get off of me. And there was an ex-boyfriend that I had that cheated on me and lied to me and gaslighted me. And he very much was hanging around like a gremlin. And she was like, get rid of him. Purge him. He's you have to, I helped you get rid of the rest of the trauma, but this is one that you specifically have to get rid of on your own. And so when I got back to my room, I did kind of this, all over my body, just in kind of until I felt that he was gone. And then there was some trauma, I think, that I was still feeling with my twin flame. And so I wanted to just wipe that away too. What happened next at the room? Like I said earlier, ayahuasca was a stimulant for me, so I just couldn't sleep. So I'm trying to lay in bed, and I'm like, great, another sleepless night. And, the tea's not helping, nothing's helping. So I was like, maybe if I go lay on the couch, because sometimes that, would help back in the day when I used to have serious sleeping problems. I couldn't even sleep in my bed. So I went and laid on the little couch in my room, and still just nothing. I'm telling you, like 10 cups of coffee on the brain, could not sleep. So I waited and I waited and I waited for a while, because I did not want to wake up any of the facilitators that needed to be sleeping. So I think I waited until about maybe 6:30 a.m. and then I grabbed the walkie-talkie, and oh man, I like sat there with it for a while. There was something that the facilitator, when she was helping me with the whole going to the bathroom and flushing my vomit and everything, she's like, it's okay to take up space. They really want you to know at Soltara that you are important. Your healing experience is important. Like, they make you feel special, all of us. I was struggling with that as I sat there with the walkie-talkie, knowing like I had to get on there and say, I'm in my room. Can you come help me? So I heard the facilitator, Christina, say that she would be right up. And so she came up to my room and sat with me. And I told her that, I told her everything that had happened. And I said it felt like probably 2 hours before she came up. And then also, I think maybe even a little bit while she was sitting with me, it felt like a Tasmanian devil was running around in my brain, just constantly. There was one thing that the medicine told me I had to do. So I actually did parts therapy at one time, and I identified all the parts within me. Like, there was one part that I had that was named Emma. And Emma, I figured out in EMDR therapy, was actually created to save me from turning to something like heroin or whatever. When my childhood trauma was happening, it was so severe. Emma was created as, I forget what they call it, but there's like this, you like split your personality, like fragments, you split and you create another like person. So I had Emma there she was like, we got to be successful in life. We got to make money. We got to do this. We got to do that. It was always like, we got to. Like, she would never let me rest. And I guess I could override her at times, but she just never wanted me to rest. She always wanted me to achieve. And, as I mentioned, she was created to help me cope with what was happening with my childhood trauma, so that something more destructive wouldn't happen to me in my life. When I threw up all the trauma, now Emma was sitting out there going, I have no role. I have nothing to protect you from. So I remembered the night before about this thing about how I'm supposed to spread love to everybody, and I gave Emma that role. A very interesting thing about that was that I was talking to a couple the next day who specialized in parts work and said, give her another role. And I was like, oh, I did the right thing. But there was still this Tasmanian devil like running around in my brain. Another facilitator told me the explanation for that was that the medicine was trying to show me what technology, our smartphones, the computer, the TV, all of that, what that stuff is doing to my brain. That is just making it literally non-stop. So she sat there and talked to me for quite a while. We talked about my experience. We did talk about my twin flame. I didn't tell her that I had a twin flame or that he was a twin flame. She said, why did you come here to Soltara? And I said that I, have been in a spiritual awakening because of an ex-boyfriend, and this seemed like the logical next step of like my healing work. So she asked how long I had been doing healing work for, and I said that at that point I was on 3 years of like deep intensives and working with trauma specialists, on and off, not all along. Obviously that's very expensive work, but I had probably spent a good $25,000 on therapy and trauma work at that point, with Soltara included. And she just looked at me with like just a loving grin and said, at some point you can decide to stop doing this healing work and just enjoy your life. Man, did that really just resonate. I mean, when you go and do ayahuasca, I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but it gave me like every answer that I needed and more about my life. And there's something else that they talk about is, like I said in my previous video, I talked about like integration, because they do send you like emails afterwards for 10 weeks telling you, how you can, do integration better, like make sure you nourish yourself, self-care, checking out resources, taking technology into mind, all the kinds of things that could help make your integration better. What I learned at Soltara is that integration actually happens like the minute it starts, the minute you actually sign up to go on that trip. And here's a funny thing that happened. This is like specifically for my twin flames that'll be listening. I had a TikToker that I follow, and I had kind of given up on the twin flame journey. I'm like, I had been told by people, well, let's just say that I didn't really have people approving of me being a twin flame in my life. So still being in like a people pleasing mode, I guess I kind of was like, it's still there, but maybe I should deny this. I just wasn't as aware of it. And this TikToker that I was watching, she had a lot of like spiritual awakening and, like how to just be better in your life with things, kind of information on her TikToks. And then all of a sudden stuff about twin flames started popping up, and I think I just pushed those aside, didn't even like the videos, kind of rejected it. And then I saw that she was going to do twin flame readings on a live one night on TikTok. Again, I ignored it. And then I go to pull up TikTok that night, not even thinking about it. And she's right there on the live. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is only $10. I am going to pay this so that she can confirm that he is not my twin flame. And I'm going to do ayahuasca, knowing that this is just my soul alone and he's not part of it. Like I said, this was 2 nights before I was supposed to leave, and she like flipped her coin and it flipped on yes both times. This is not one of those readers that will tell you that it's your twin flame just so they can get more money out of you. She actually will say, twin flames are rare. So I was expecting her to say no. Actually, I wanted her to do my reading, thinking she would tell me no, so that like I could just completely walk away from the journey. But the universe and spirit just had something else in mind for me and wanted me to know that this person is my counterpart. This is my mirrored soul. So that happened right before I left. And then since I have returned from medicine, I think I've been doing healing work for so long that I didn't actually like read or dive into a lot of Soltara's emails. A lot. Like, I already knew that I needed to be meditating and eating healthy and, getting out in nature and all of those things. So good guide, like good reminders to have, but I didn't really dive too deeply into that, nor did I schedule an appointment with their counselor, just because I kind of just wanted the medicine to sit with me and do what it was going to do. And why I'm here on YouTube now, like creating videos to tell you guys all about different healing modalities, to share that with you. The medicine really wanted me to Costa Rica to push that forward. I have kind of been wanting to write a book. I've had a blog for a couple of years now, but I didn't know. I guess I felt discouraged because there are so many people out there talking about spiritual stuff or spiritual awakenings, and they knew a lot more than me, and I was not listening to the voice that was inside of me. So through my twin flame experience and through this healing and especially through ayahuasca, it showed me that like I have something to help you guys with. I have something to show you, and there are channeled messages that I get that are very important to the collective. Going back to my third ceremony, my third night of medicine, I only took 1 shot that night, and that night another retreat that I almost went to said, if you don't have an intention, give the medicine the intention to meet your soul. So that was my third night, and there wasn't really a lot, like no visions or anything, nothing weird, no real purging. Again, there's still that feeling like in the pit in your stomach, like maybe you want to vomit, but nothing like very forceful. And then the medicine told me, like, you've already met her. You have already met your soul. But since I have returned, it is the downloads from my spirit guides and from my soul, who, you know, I've named Alyssa. That's why I go by that name on here. I'm just, everything's progressing so much faster in my life. Like, I know what my purpose is now. I know how to express my purpose. I know what I do want. I know what I don't want. I decided on this trip to give up a friendship who we just weren't aligned, and like it's been like so hard to let go of this friendship. Like, I care about her, but it's just, you know, when you're not on the same frequency with a person, your frequencies are so far apart. It's just draining to be around them, no matter how much you care about them. It's just not anything that you can do. And the guilt kept that going. And like, I just released it when I was at Soltara. Actually, when I was back at my room after that horrendous night, the second ceremony, I got back to my room because you can't take cell phones to the Maloka. So I got back to my room and there was a text message from her saying, I hope you're having a good time in Costa Rica. And I was like, like I said, we're just not on the same page or the same frequency. We don't understand each other. So the medicine helped me decide to let go of that. Oh, one thing that was very personal, there was a bird that made a specific noise, that sound, and it would come. So that bird would be on our way to the Maloka every night. To me, there were like these big, like brown, blackish leaves laying on the ground, and this bird, I don't know, maybe it's because I couldn't wear my contacts down to the Maloka, but like this bird always looked like a leaf to me until it moved. And that was a bird that then always came over to the Maloka just for our group. It didn't go to the Maloka for all the other Soltara groups, just ours. And it would like make that noise while we were in ceremony. Maybe not the whole time, but it was like, it was there just for us. Like, the medicine picks the people that you're there with, picks the animals you're gonna encounter. I can't remember if it was the second or the third night, but I went back to my room and there was one like spider in my closet. And I used to be scared to death of spiders, but I'm not anymore, because there's like, that's just like Matrix brain stuff if you're scared of a bug. It's okay if you are, but I've decided to get rid of all my fears in life. And so that's just one thing that I decided to, if there's a spider in my house, like, I just leave it. It just lives here. I don't have that many bugs in my house. It's not a big deal. But I went back to my room, I think after the second night, and there was a spider in my closet up near the ceiling. And like, the medicine brought that spider for me, because the spider is the spirit animal of divine feminine healing and empowerment. And that's exactly what I was there for, was to start to heal my divine feminine wounding. There are just so many ways that the plant medicine is there to like help you and guide you. Like, it's still working with me today, even though I was, at Soltara like 3 months ago. You can bring home the tobacco from there, smoke that like a cigar, and that will also like bring you even closer to the medicine if you want to. They also at Soltara give you like this perfume that you can bring home and, spray on your body, and that will bring you closer to the medicine as well. Anyways, the fourth night, man, 3 nights out of 6 nights, I didn't sleep a wink. At this point I'm tired, and I was looking at my flights. I didn't know that you could do COVID testing online if you like purchased it in advance. You could just take your computer and do it online with someone. I didn't know that, so I opted to do it at the airport, and my flight was at 6 a.m., so I knew I had to get my test done before 2 a.m. because that was the Costa Rica requirements, was 4 hours before your flight. I just decided, and then there was a thing about, Uber and whether Uber can or cannot get into the airport, and what times they run, and what times the taxis run, and whatever. So anyways, I just wanted to be safe, and I went over there probably about 10:30 at night. So I had planned this in advance because there's no way I'm missing my flight home, right? I knew I wasn't going to sleep that night either, and I'm like, I don't care that it's the fourth ceremony tonight. I need to sleep. Like, my body needs this. I guess they don't really care if you want to opt out of taking the medicine, but the facilitator who had helped me that one morning, she told me, if you could just take, even just a little bit, like quarter of a dose, so that the medicine is still there in your body while they are singing the Ikaro song. The fourth night is when they sing the Ikaro that closes up your crown chakra and seals it, because you're very sensitive at that point. I just took a very, very, very small dose. I fell asleep right away on my mattress, but I still woke up to hear that they were closing the ceremony and get back to my room, and then I got some much needed sleep again. One other thing was that I had opted for a retreat, an ayahuasca retreat called Rhythmia before I actually picked Soltara. I didn't know that Soltara existed at the time. Well, when I booked Rhythmia, the pandemic hit right away. It was like the universe did not want me going there for whatever reason. And when I listened to reviews, I think it was Luke's Story that did a comparison of the two. If you want to check out his video on YouTube, but to me, like, the ceremonies go longer at Rhythmia, which I would not have enjoyed. They would play like American music in the middle of it. Like at Soltara, it's more like you're there silent with the medication, and the only music is the Ikaros being sung by the shamans. And then the groups are like larger at Rhythmia. Anyways, the universe obviously did not want me going there because the pandemic came in right as I had booked that. And then when I went to cancel with them, they changed their cancellation policy between when I had booked and when I was asking for my refund, which I was just like, wow, that's screwed up. That's not right. And I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to go there anymore. So I did my research and I found Soltara, and that's obviously the place where the universe wanted me to be to have the best experience. So again, the universe and ayahuasca are always working in your favor. It did seem to me that a lot of people were there to try ayahuasca just because they've tried every other psychedelic and drug on the planet. That's cool, no judgment. I had never taken a psychedelic, and I had never tried anything stronger than marijuana. So this was my first experience with anything outside of weed, really. A lot of people are like, wow, like you went straight into ayahuasca, but that's the medicine that was calling to me. So if ayahuasca is calling you, you may continue to be drawn back to it until you actually go and do it. I just highly recommend it. They say that it can be like 10 years of therapy in like a week. I would say it's a good few years of therapy. It really helped me see where I want to be at in life. And also when I came home, like, I was led to buy like 6 different books about how to control your thoughts, kind of like The Power of Now. Like Eckhart Tolle teaches how you can just You're not your thoughts. Like, you can just sit back and watch them. You can listen to them. You don't have to respond to them. They're not you. Like, your ego and your brain are supposed to serve you, but we're like, because of the Matrix, we're taught to serve them, and it's like all backwards. So again, that is the medicine like working with me. Oh, and one last thing about the bird that visited us at the Maloka. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when I got back to where I live in the States, there is a bird that sounds very similar to our bird at the Maloka in Costa Rica that comes and visits almost every day. And my neighbor even commented, I've never heard this bird before. Where did this come from? So I feel like that is my bird. That is like my spirit guide. One of my spirit guides, like helping me along on my journey. So, if you accept it and you surrender to the medicine, it is there to help you with just so many different things that you couldn't even imagine. Like, you are so loved, and you'll know it when you take this medicine. if you surrender to it and you want to hear the messages that it wants to give you. All right, that's it.